I definitely wouldn't say that all Gen Z has started to turn right, but I definitely would say that a good amount of them have. Specifically, boys that have basically grown up being told that their masculinity is toxic, and the girls who have basically been coddled and accountability has basically been stripped from them. I can imagine how some of the boys have just gotten sick and tired of being sick and tired of being told that how they were born specifically is terrible, and that they need to basically change into something that they are not, and that doesn't feel natural to them. Let's say. I can see how that is definitely a thing, but a good amount of them have absolutely started to basically move right. And I think during Trump's election, that basically screamed it loudly. While Kamala Harris is basically pushing things that basically only really, truthfully benefited women, versus Trump that had no problem with the concept of masculinity. I can imagine. Right? I mean, it makes all the sense in the world that they felt this is attractive, this isn't. Right? So it doesn't surprise me, guys. But either way, let's jump to the video immediately. This is a suggestion via Discord. Gen Z has turned right. All right. Let's jump into it.
5 more words.
5 more words.
Gen Z has turned right. Kennedy, new data, that's my favorite kind, from the 2024 election shows that Democrats are losing the youth vote with Gen Z. Those are in their late teens to age 28. Your dating group, Jim, they're the most conservative generation in decades, like 5 decades. Why do you think it is?
The same reason I joined the Teen Republicans when I was in high school, to make people mad.
Yes.
It's the only way you can make people mad.
Your teacher hates Trump, wear a Trump hat.
Well, what?
Okay, well, I guess that's one way also. Could be like teenage angst, maybe.
Why wouldn't you?
Yes.
And it's like, if you
Petulant
go
child
along
syndrome?
to get along as a guy,
Yeah.
especially in high school, it's like, they tell you they hate you every single day. The Democrats, all they advertised was like toxic masculinity. Like Tim Walz
Yeah.
is so sexy, and so is Doug Emhoff.
Oh, yeah?
Because they have flabby man boobs. And they tuck their testes in a little satchel and they put it in their foot locker because they're grossed out by testosterone. Aren't they amazing? And
I believe that is absolutely a true story. I get it. She's definitely, in fact, saying it in jest, but it feels true.
their foot locker because they're grossed out by testosterone. Aren't they amazing?
Ew,
and
man.
every teenage guy is like, no,
Yeah.
I want
No.
to keep my balls.
Yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I want to keep my balls. That is a rallying cry for America.
Yes.
Give us back our balls. Tyrus, shouldn't we get a little credit for this? Weren't we the tip of the spear? The
No.
vibe-shifting cool cats at late night?
Yes, we were. And that's why I also sit Y-wing all the time, too. No one's treading on my balls, yo. This is America. But Kennedy's right. It's not only that, they grew up during this. It's like,
Yeah.
if you grew up during the Clinton era, there was a balanced budget, whether his dating practices you agree with or not agree with.
Yeah, I don't
he
really
did some
care
good
about
things.
Clinton's
So it'd be a lot of
practices.
people grew up like, hey, I like the Democratic Party because it was good for me when I was growing up. But if you were growing up during the pandemic, during all this, during all the fake stuff, after a while, you're like, this sucks.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And at the same time, I can twist dad's man bun all messed up by putting on a MAGA hat. They're all in.
Yes.
No.
To be honest, I didn't even think about it coming from this angle, but to be honest, it could be that. It could just be like legitimate, like teenage angst. They are trying to rebel, and what's the best rebellion you can possibly have right now? Go against the grain, let's say, of the Democrat Party, and you basically will most likely piss enough people off to make you feel better about your teenage angst.
Dad's man bun all messed up by putting on a MAGA hat.
Not the
They're
man
all
bun.
in.
Yes.
Not the
You know,
man.
like no
bun.
one else wants, no kid wants to wear Birkenstocks and high socks and stuff and say things like important and birthing person.
Birthing
You know,
person.
like make sure you pee when you sit down so you don't make your mom feel inferior. Not in my house. I'd pee everywhere to be like, let her know this is man country, mama. So I mean,
That is not okay to
Mark
laugh
your
at.
turf. That's what I say, Aaron, all the time.
Mark your turf.
But it is like a flip from, I'd say, I mean, you weren't born then, but in the 70s, it was the Republicans who were the Dean Wormer, the Scolds, and now we see the opposite.
It's true, and it can be very cyclical. I'd like to think, it's the millennial generation of Republicans like myself that made the party cool, but we really didn't because we weren't cool. But what we are seeing now is that, to Kennedy's point, so many of, especially young men in this country, were lambasted by the left into saying, you don't believe in equal rights. You're the problem with this country. You are what has made America wrong. And instead of just saying, forget you and going away and not being part of the process, the difference is now with Donald Trump, they see a reason to be involved in the process. These are new voters that are coming in off the sidelines, and it's a rejection not only of what the left is saying, but an activation to actually be part of it in a way that we haven't seen before.
Jim, isn't that a long way of saying it's more fun?
And you got to give Trump some credit for that. There's something to the way he communicates. Like, there's something relatable about the way he responds to things. She's fat, shut up. Like, there is something, but there's something very human about that. It's very blunt, and you can connect to a guy who's like, whether you agree or not, he's saying, at least in a way that is somewhat relatable as a person. Whereas when you look at Biden, it was all just nonsense, and Kamala didn't seem to talk in a way that most people are going to relate to. I think there's something about that communication. He's just funny and enjoyable to listen to. And when you're 15 and 16, you're like, why would I listen to this old corpse when this guy is telling her you'd be in jail and this guy sucks? I'm like, that's how I think. So I think,
yeah, guys, that definitely adds some validity to the overall statements that are being made here. I do think that all of them have really good points here. They're all making solid points, and I do think that basically pushed a good amount of specifically Gen Z boys over to the right, because the girls didn't move, because that's their party now, guys. All right, that is their party. I look at, you guys sent me some CNN videos, and I'm like, wow, there are no men, zero men. And then you realize that the Democrat Party has a man problem, but you don't care about that at all. It's just what's going to end up happening is that the men that are still going to be left there are going to get sick of this environment, because it's not benefiting them truthfully. They're just, having to feel bad about a certain, insert case here, cause here, let's say. But the point is, guys, it has nothing to do with them. So why would they consistently stay in a party that has that's not giving them any actual value, like for their specific lives? Like a straight man, bro, I don't know why you're there. It's not for you, right? Unless you just like the punishment. Don't get me wrong here. There are some people who like that type of thing. They like being dominated, right? I'm guessing those are those people. I'm forecasting.
I think there's something to that.
Yeah, you know what? You just made me think that, like, there's little things in culture that have probably bigger impacts, and one of them is the teacher in South Park. Yeah,
Mr. Garrison?
That's the principal.
Yeah, the principal. It's the teacher.
Mr. Garrison. Yes.
Yeah. It's that kind of like mentality that I think people just were like, that became real once you saw that on South Park, and that changed your mind. I don't know.
No,
But,
South Park also
It's a weird
made
reference.
it fun to make fun of the liberal bull.
yeah.
And so do we.
Amen.
Hey, Sean Hannity.
Oh, okay, all right. Just to put kind of like a button on this here, I do agree with most of the things that were said here. There was nothing that was absolutely crazy or kind of like, excessively biased. I think that this is just, it is what it is now, guys. As the days are progressing, and the fact that the Democrat Party still hasn't actually learned why people decided to move, even though everyone is saying it, they just don't want to believe that the ideologies that are constantly being pushed down the throats of regular Americans is something that could have caused kind of the rift, let's say, right? And also at the same time, guys, the internet is basically in a time where there are a lot of like gender issues that are happening kind of all over the internet. I'm sure if you've been on the internet within the last year at least, you've seen some crazy videos of men talking crazy about women and then women talking crazy about men. Gen Z absolutely has a problem with each other. They do not like each other. So while the women are acting in one specific way, the men are just absolutely revolting from it. A lot of them are grabbing passports and leaving the country type of thing. But just, guys, there are issues with them themselves. So, of course, their ideologies are different. I think men have basically stayed the same, but the women have absolutely changed in a way that isn't appealing, I would say, to the majority of Gen Z boys, at least. Unless you're in California, you're probably fine with the changes, let's say. But or any big city, let's say, right? But I think that's what's really been going on, at least. I think that's what it is. A lot of these men are being like inundated with like all of like the super toxic alpha male nonsense, right? That's not like massively conducive to like who they are in the first place, because they may not be coming from the exact, let's say, lived experience and bank account, okay, as some of the guys who are speaking. And then you try to idealize that person, and you try to put some of that stuff into practice, and then you realize it doesn't work because, bro, you don't make seven figures like a month. So like, bro, listen, men and women need each other, absolutely, but they just don't like each other right now, right? And I think that's the reality, and it's starting to actually bleed into like millennials, also Gen Xers and things like that, guys. It's definitely a cultural divide happening on like a massive way between like traditional men and the California man, let's say. All right, but either way, listen, you guys all have an absolutely amazing day. Let me know in the comments what you guys think. I'll catch you guys later.